Welcome to Strip Cover, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear, of course, in the poetry discussion playlist here on the channel. Today's poem comes to us from Emily Dickinson, and I don't know if you can hear the helicopter that is apparently landing on the roof of my apartment, but golly, did you hear that? The poem in question is known as My Life Closed Twice Before Its Close, and it reads as such: My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive as these that twice befell. Parting is all we know of heaven, and all we need of hell. Now, the first thing that I have to point out is that Emily Dickinson has probably the best first lines in all of poetry. I mean, just the absolute abundance of great first lines that come to us from Emily Dickinson is incredible. Incredible. Now, it's after her first lines that sometimes the poet gets herself into trouble. And by gets herself into trouble, what I mean is loses her reader because wow, the places that Emily Dickinson is able and willing and ready to go. And sometimes it's hard to follow. In fact, this first line itself, my life closed twice before its close. Okay, what's that mean? Basically, it seems to be an admission of dying twice before the speaker's death because at the end, our speaker is, it seems, deceased. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, stating that here I am in the forever after, in the great morass, and nothing so far has been so. Nothing so far has been so incredible as those two first events to me. So huge, so hopeless to conceive as these that twice befell. In the afterlife, nothing has been compared to those two events. Parting is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell. Now, here's where things get really interesting in this poem. Parting is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell. That phrase in itself, okay, parting though, all we know of heaven. Well, how can that really be? What does that mean? So, I think what it means is if we are to assume that my life closed twice before its close, with the way that this poem unfurled before us in the subsequent lines, if we are to take the meaning of this poem to be, I lost two people before my death, and those hits were worse for me than losing my own life. If that is where we are led to be by the end of this poem, then how can that parting be all we know of heaven? How can that be heaven? Well, think about it. If you only know yourself in the context of a relationship, losing that relationship becomes a very freeing event. It might be incredibly painful, but it becomes where the individual claims his or her self. It becomes where the individual is individualized. There is a phrase in psychology known as actualization. It can be argued that true actualization only comes to individuals. Being actualized within the confines of a relationship is to be subservient in one way or another to said relationship. If individuality is the ultimate in being a person, wherein your life you have to create everything, all the joy, all the sadness, all the get up and go, all the meals, all the laundry, all of the everything. If that is to be said as an act of creation, what is heaven? Heaven is knowing God. God is the creator. How were we created in the image of God? In the fact that we are able to create. What could bring us closer to God than that? But at the same time, that same parting is all we need of hell. I think that one goes pretty self-explanatory, right? Losing these people, so devastating to the individual that it is all we need of hell. Well, that's not so bad, right? That's not so intense a poem to have to understand. Except for one thing. Except for one thing. Did you catch it? My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive as these that twice befell. Parting is all we know of heaven, and all we need of hell. That last couplet, parting is all we know of heaven, and all we need of hell. Well, as a sort of mental experiment, as a thought experiment, as an idea to play with, as a thought to roil atop our tongue. That is quaint. In the land of the living. But if your speaker's already dead and is conceding that parting is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell, your speaker is very much implying that they know they have endured one of these things, but not the other. If I tell you $1 million is a lot of money, you might say, oh, I know. I know it's a lot of money. I don't have it. I don't have $1 million. But if I ask you, how much money do you need to pay off your car? You know. You contain the idea. If I say, how much do you need to pay rent? How much do you need to go to the grocery store? How much do you need to pay off your student loans? That number is within your existence, and you need it. Our speaker is saying that I'll use the pronoun she because we're speaking about an Emily Dickinson poem. Not necessary that we have any idea what from whence the speaker comes. Parting is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell. This is stating our speaker here, knows of heaven, can conceptualize heaven, but knows exactly how much hell she needs. But then, a little deeper even than that, there is an old idea of hell. I believe it comes from the Hebrew texts, where was it Sheol was hell? Essentially hell? Because it wasn't until, in the words of Christopher Hitchens, it wasn't until Jesus Christ meek and mild did we really got hell. But in the original sort of Abrahamic religions, the idea of hell was basically separation. The idea of hell was separation from God. There was, what's the phrase, gnashing of teeth, much pain and gnashing of teeth, something like that. But that's basically it. We don't get Dante's Inferno. We get separation. Separation and darkness, they were enough. Separation from God was enough to constitute hell. So what are we really saying here? Is Emily Dickinson making the statement that maybe hell is all that exists? Parting is all we know of heaven. Separation is all we know of heaven. And all we need of hell. Look, this is one of those poems that you could interpret and interpret and interpret for days and just run in circles. So I'm currently working on episode 1 of Dickinson Darkly, which is where I'm going to go poem by poem through Emily Dickinson. And I'm putting a lot more work into it than the poetry reviews or poetry discussions on the channel. It's something that I want to be special. Boy. Awake Ye Muses 9 is the very first poem that we get from Emily Dickinson, and it's joyful. It's mirthful. It is from the 20-year-old Emily Dickinson, and it is encouraging a young man to pick a lady. And the theory is Emily Dickinson even lists herself among these girls. Young women, 20. And it's not simple, and it's not easy. It's not a simple poem. It's not an easy poem. But it is more or less surface. It was written for Valentine's Day. It was written for Valentine's Day from a young woman probably hoping to court a man, hoping to have his attention turned on to her. She did not get that attention. And we go from that, a very social poem, a very warm poem, a very happy poem, a lot of joy, a rhyme scheme, a standardized rhyme scheme, I should say. We go from that to this. It's just incredible to sort of see the differences in Emily as she goes along, and how that poetry turns from a social attempt to the inward, maybe spiral that became her. But look, it's just like cities. You can build out or you can build up, right? If you build out as a person, spread yourself wide, encompass a lot of space, absorb a lot of people into your sphere, you can have a good time. You can be influential. But those interactions, how deep are they? Then you have someone like Emily Dickinson, who was so focused, who was such a recluse, building high, digging deep, you know? And we're fortunate to have the geniuses who build out, who end up becoming socialites, the geniuses who end up becoming Albert Einstein, right? A little bit of a recluse Einstein, but he liked people. He liked being in front of people. The geniuses. Oh man, I'm trying to think. The communicators, right? You have communicators who are geniuses. But what do they really build? Everything that we still hold on to from Einstein, those were things that he did alone. Those were things he performed in isolation. Everything that we have from Emily Dickinson that allows us to journey into ourselves, it's something that she did alone. Something that she was isolated and performed. Is it worth it? You know? What part of it is worth it? How much of it is worth it? If you start down one road, you try to make friends and don't make any, did you waste your time? If you try to build those buildings high into the sky and dig those cellars deep into the ground like Emily Dickinson, but you're just not as bright or talented, did you waste your time? It's a lot of questions. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button because literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel, with poetry happening at least every Monday. Also, short stories and novel read alongs. If you want to help me out with what I'm doing here, hitting the like button tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, and I hope to have you back for the next one.